To be able to understand the Honkai verse, you first need to understand the imaginary tree and how it functions. I'll be briefly explaining the tree in this video, but if you want a more detailed explanation, go watch my previous video, Imaginary Tree Lore, that I'll link down in the description below. I'm Ufi, and here's a beginner's intro to Honkai lore. Don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. So if you've already watched my imaginary tree video or have a baseline understanding of it, then let's get into it. What is Honkai? Honkai is a natural occurring force of nature that threatens every world on the imaginary tree. It has a will of its own and can manifest itself in many ways, including natural disasters, monsters, and can even infect humans and turn them into Honkai zombies. Ew. The Honkai only threatens technologically advanced civilizations. For more primitive worlds, there is still some degree of Honkai, but not nearly as devastating as the more progressed worlds. Worlds that cannot withstand the Honkai force will wither and break off from the imaginary tree, falling into the Sea of Quanta, where it will become fragmented and unstable, and eventually die. We know more advanced worlds have a greater Honkai threat, yes. Well, they don't just have to deal with the beasts, zombies, and hurricanes, but every once in a while, where there is concentrated Honkai energy, a Honkai outbreak, eruption, or impact can happen. This is when a Herrscher is born and wreaks havoc on humanity. Herrschers are another form of Honkai manifestations. These are humans who have a Honkai resistance, and when infected by Honkai or implanted with a Herrscher core or gem, can they become something more than human. I know this may sound confusing, because it is, but Herrschers are inherently bad. However, the current era of humanity has experimented with Herrscher cores and gems by creating Herrschers to fight alongside humanity against the Honkai. The problem with this is that when a human becomes a Herrscher, they lose their humanity.
Okay.
So, when inheriting the Honkai powers, they also inherit the Herrscher gem or core's personality. We can see this in the fight with Mei and Kiana, where Kiana struggles to maintain her human mind, and we can see Siren, the Herrscher, take over Kiana's mind and body. Although, she does ultimately overcome the Herrscher persona and is able to use her Herrscher abilities at will, and eventually obtains a second one, the Herrscher of Flameshin. Now, going back to where it all started, the previous era. Before the current era, where we are now in the game, the previous era had already dealt with all 14 Herrschers, but in the end could not defeat them. So now, in the current era, these Herrschers will make a comeback, and it's up to the Valkyries and anti-Honkai organizations to figure out how to defeat all 14 reborn Herrschers. So what or when was the previous era? Now, this is where things can get confusing, but bear with me here. Now, the whole premise of Honkai Impact 3rd is that humanity has been in this battle with the Honkai for a long time. So long that humanity had been wiped out by the Honkai once 50,000 years ago. This first civilization progressed very fast and quickly became a very technologically advanced civilization, even more so than the current era. This first civilization was called the previous era. And because of how advanced they were, the Honkai attacked at full force. The Honkai threat of the previous era forced humanity to establish a group of scientists and warriors called the Flame Chasers, or Fire Moths. Now, I won't go into too much detail about them, but let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a future video going into details about the previous era and all the Flame Chasers. For now, you just need to know that the Moth organization created weapons and genetically engineered soldiers with the power of Honkai. And these 13 genetically engineered soldiers were called Mantises. Anyways, the Flame Chasers essentially paved way for the current era. So, the previous era Flame Chasers' jobs were to find a way humanity could live on without the threat of Honkai. They made AIs and lots of advanced technology to predict the comings of Herrschers and how to defeat them. They also devised a plan for the off chance they fail and humanity was wiped out, which is exactly what happened. So, the few Flame Chasers left created the fourth Divine Key with the purpose of purifying the Earth after the Herrscher of the End's impact, And they also built cryogenic sleep chambers to wait out the impending apocalypse, just to be woken up in the current era so they could pass on the knowledge and technology left behind by the previous era. Did you get all that? The current era. This is where Otto, Schicksal, and Antientropy are born. We start the game during the third Honkai eruption in the current era, hence the name Honkai Impact 3rd. We follow the stories of the current era Valkyries and their fight with the Honkai, Herschers, and Otto Apocalypse. Schicksal and Antientropy are two anti-Honkai organizations, and not only do they beef with the Honkai, but also with each other. How productive. So, Schicksal was the first anti-Honkai organization and established way back in 7th century current era. Presently, it controls most of Europe, Africa, and Asia, and led by none other than Otto Apocalypse. Schicksal organized the Valkyries, which were comprised of people who had some degree of Honkai resistance. These were mostly women due to them being far more adaptable to Honkai energy than males. These Valkyries were powerful fighters and helped aid in the fight against the Honkai. Now, Schicksal has had a long history and lots of power. And with a long history and power comes corruption and greed. In the early days of Schicksal, they had been using Honkai-powered weapons to fend off the outbreaks and opposing forces. They eventually opposed a being called Immortal Celestial, who was actually Fuhua from the previous era. Schicksal tried all they could to defeat her and eventually tried using a divine key from the previous era called the Oath of Judah. Colin Caslana was the one who wielded it and ultimately failed in defeat. This was a big loss, and to make up for it, Schicksal decided to start raising taxes, and also selling required indulgences, which absolved the buyer of their mortal sins. During this time, Schicksal was also kidnapping young girls and using them in experiments. And the people obviously didn't like this, and Colin took it upon herself to uncover and expose Schicksal for what it truly is. Colin was also Otto's childhood love. She inspired him and became a beacon of light in his dark world. However, she didn't know the truth behind the walls of Schicksal or what Otto was actually doing. Otto's experiments involved exposing young girls to this mysterious black box, which then would cure them of the recent rising plague. While Otto was experimenting one night, Colin invaded. Seeing what was happening, she takes the black box and leaves. She's later caught and sentenced to execution by hanging. Otto did not like this at all. He was about to watch the love of his life die in front of him because of him. Not having any other plan, Otto releases Honkai beasts upon the execution ceremony, hoping to provide a distraction so he can take Colin and escape. But we wouldn't have the entire lore of Honkai Impact if that happened, now would we? Colin ends up escaping the chopping block, but in retreat spots a young girl being targeted by a Honkai beast. While saving the young girl, Colin is impaled by the Honkai monster, and this is the beginning of Otto's villain origin story. Otto eventually becomes the Schicksal Overseer and continues to dabble in human experimentation. He later finds the first Herrscher, Welt Joyce, and experiments on him too. He then transfers Welt to the Schicksal Lab in London, where Einstein and Tesla are. In the North America Schicksal branch, a group of scientists were studying ancient texts in a previous era site when they discovered a divine key called the Star of Eden, and information on technology called the Moonlight Throne. Otto did not like this and saw this as a threat to his authority, and decided to use the Void Archives on him. But when that didn't work, he flippin' nuked them. Talk about managing your emotions in an unhealthy way. But now this North American branch of Schicksal severed ties and became known as Antientropy. Founded by Tesla, Planck, and Einstein, Antientropy wants to protect humanity and rid the world of Honkai. Except they refuse to use Valkyries and opt for mechs instead. But since the fallout with Schicksal, they are labeled as a terrorist organization and have to act in secrecy. Is your brain exploding with Honkai information? Well, don't explode until after you hit that like and subscribe button. Really, click subscribe. As a small creator, it really helps out my channel and boosts my motivation to make more videos like this. Let me know what other Honkai lore you'd like to know down in the comments. And once again, I am Ufi, and thank you so much for watching.